Before history was written, before cities rose, before kings carved their names into stone, humanity told a single story, a story of water, of judgment, of a world erased. Across continents, cultures separated by oceans and millennia all remembered the same catastrophe, a great flood. Not a local disaster, not a seasonal overflow, but a deluge so immense it became the dividing line between before and after. Was it myth, or was it memory? Mesopotamia, where the flood entered history. The clearest early record of the flood comes from ancient Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, often called the cradle of civilization. Here, more than 3,000 years ago, scribes pressed wedge-shaped symbols into clay tablets, preserving stories far older than themselves. One of these stories appears in the Epic of Gilgamesh. In it, the hero Gilgamesh meets an immortal man named Utnapishtim, who tells of a time when the gods decided humanity had grown too numerous, too loud, too chaotic. One god, Ea, the Lord of Wisdom, secretly warned Utnapishtim of an impending flood and instructed him to build a massive boat. Then the storm came. Rain fell without pause. Rivers burst their banks. The land vanished beneath water. The flood lasted 6 days and 7 nights, until even the gods themselves grew frightened by the destruction they had unleashed. When the waters receded, Utnapishtim released birds to search for land. His boat came to rest on a mountain. He survived, and humanity survived with him. This story was written centuries before the biblical book of Genesis, and it is not alone. The flood before Noah. Even older than Gilgamesh is the Atrahasis epic, dating to around the 17th century BCE. In it, humanity is described as imperfect creations, noisy, troublesome beings who disturb the gods' rest. The solution? Total annihilation by flood. Here again, a chosen survivor is warned. Here again, a boat is built. Here again, the world is cleansed. Scholars agree on one thing. The biblical story of Noah did not appear in isolation. It emerged from a much older Mesopotamian tradition, passed down, reshaped, and reinterpreted over centuries. Even the first-century historian Josephus believed these flood stories describe the same ancient event, remembered differently by different cultures. But memory does not require divinity. It only requires trauma. The science behind the myth. At the end of the last ice age, roughly 11,700 years ago, Earth entered a period of dramatic change. Glaciers melted, sea levels rose by more than 120 meters globally. Entire coastlines vanished. Land bridges like Doggerland in northern Europe and the Bering Land Bridge disappeared beneath the sea. In the Near East, flooding rivers and rising seas may have transformed habitable land into wasteland within generations. To people with no writing, no satellites, no concept of geology, this would have felt like the end of the world. Over time, catastrophe became story. Story became myth. Myth became scripture. But some believe the flood destroyed more than villages. They believe it erased a civilization. Atlantis, Plato's lost world. Around 360 BCE, the philosopher Plato wrote of a powerful island civilization called Atlantis. According to his account, Atlantis existed thousands of years earlier and possessed immense wealth, advanced engineering, and global influence. Then, in a single day and night, it vanished beneath the sea. Plato framed Atlantis as a moral lesson, a technologically powerful society undone by arrogance. And crucially, no records of Atlantis exist before Plato. Modern archaeology and geology are clear. There is no evidence of a sunken continent in the Atlantic Ocean. Plate tectonics makes such a collapse impossible. Most scholars agree Atlantis was allegorical, not historical. Yet the idea refuses to die, because something else was discovered. Göbekli Tepe, a temple before civilization. In southeastern Turkey stands Göbekli Tepe, a site older than Stonehenge, older than the pyramids, older than agriculture itself. Dating back to 9,600 BCE, Göbekli Tepe consists of massive stone circles with towering T-shaped pillars, some weighing over 40 tons. They are carved with animals, lions, snakes, vultures, symbols from a forgotten world. Here's the mystery. The builders were hunter-gatherers. They had no metal tools, no writing, no pottery, no cities, and yet they built the oldest monumental stone structures ever discovered. Archaeologists agree, Göbekli Tepe was a ceremonial site, not a city. No homes, no graves, no permanent settlement. But it shouldn't exist at all, at least not according to older models of human development. Fringe theories, a lost Ice Age civilization? Some writers, most notably Graham Hancock, argue Göbekli Tepe points to something deeper. They suggest an advanced Ice Age civilization existed before the flood, one that possessed knowledge later passed to hunter-gatherers after catastrophe struck. According to this view, Göbekli Tepe is not the beginning, but the aftermath. Hancock connects this idea to the Younger Dryas, a sudden climate reversal around 12,800 years ago, possibly triggered by cosmic impacts. However, mainstream science remains unconvinced. No confirmed impact crater, no consistent global destruction layer, no artifacts of lost technology. Göbekli Tepe, remarkable as it is, still fits within human capability, given time, cooperation, and belief. What we actually know. There is no evidence of a global flood that covered the entire Earth. There is no evidence of a vanished, advanced civilization. There is no archaeological trace of Atlantis. What we do know is astonishing enough. Humans built monumental architecture before farming. Climate change reshaped civilizations repeatedly. Trauma became myth, and myth became meaning. Flood stories are not lies. They are memories filtered through culture. And memory is powerful. The silence after the flood. When the waters finally receded, the world was not reborn overnight. It was empty. Forests lay flattened under layers of silt. Animals migrated or vanished. Human populations were shattered into isolated survivors. And something else disappeared too. Memory of what came before. Civilizations do not need to be global to be erased. They only need to exist near water. And ancient humans always did. The flood as a civilization reset. Modern archaeology confirms something uncomfortable. Almost all early human settlements were built near rivers, coasts, and floodplains, the very places most vulnerable to rapid sea level rise. If advanced cultures existed during the late Ice Age, their cities would now lie under continental shelves, beneath drowned coastlines, buried by sediment tens of meters deep. And archaeology does not excavate oceans. Over 70% of Earth's surface is underwater, and most of it remains unexplored. This is not proof of a lost civilization, but it is a blind spot. Submerged worlds, real, not myth. We already know entire landscapes were swallowed. In the North Sea, sonar mapping has revealed Doggerland, a vast prehistoric landmass once home to tens of thousands of people. In India's Gulf of Khambat, sonar detected geometric structures beneath sediment layers dated to over 9,000 years ago. Controversial, debated, but unresolved. Off the coast of Japan lies Yonaguni, a submerged stone formation with sharp angles and terraces that resemble intentional architecture, dismissed by some as natural, defended by others as man-made. The pattern is consistent. Everywhere we look underwater, we find questions, not answers. Why no tools? No metal? No writing? Critics of lost civilization theories often ask, if an advanced civilization existed, where are the machines, the metals, the inscriptions? But this assumes progress must look modern. Stone erodes, wood rots, copper oxidizes. Writing requires survival. A civilization based on astronomy, stonework, ritual, and memory would leave very little behind after 10,000 years, especially after flooding, tectonic movement, and sediment burial. What does survive? Stone. And stone is exactly what Göbekli Tepe is made of. Göbekli Tepe, a message, not a city. Göbekli Tepe was intentionally buried, not destroyed, not abandoned, entombed. Layer by layer, its builders filled the enclosures with rubble, animal bones, and earth, sealing the pillars like a time capsule. Why bury something that took centuries to build? Archaeologists say ritual closure. Others ask a darker question. Was it hidden? The animal carvings at Göbekli Tepe are not random decoration. Many researchers believe they encode symbolic knowledge, constellations, seasons, cycles. Some even argue the famous vulture stone may depict a catastrophic celestial event, a falling object, a date, a warning. This is not consensus, but it is not fantasy either. The Younger Dryas, chaos without comets. Around 12,800 years ago, Earth abruptly plunged back into near-glacial conditions. Temperatures dropped, rainfall patterns shifted, megafauna went extinct. This period, the Younger Dryas, is real, measurable, and devastating. Even without a comet, it would have been catastrophic for human societies. Sea levels fluctuated violently, river systems collapsed and reformed, food sources vanished. Any culture dependent on stable climate would have suffered collapse. And collapse looks like disappearance. Myth as data storage. Before writing, humans preserved knowledge through story. Myths were not entertainment, they were archives. Flood myths in code, sudden environmental collapse, survival instructions, moral frameworks for rebuilding, astronomical timing. The Ark is not a boat, it is preservation. The chosen survivor is not special, they are prepared. The mountain is not symbolic, it is elevation. Across cultures, the message is the same. Save knowledge, rebuild later. Why this idea threatens modern history? The idea of an advanced Ice Age civilization isn't rejected because it's impossible. It's rejected because it rewrites the timeline. It suggests civilization may rise and fall cyclically. Progress is not linear. We are not the first to build, forget, and rebuild. Modern history prefers a clean origin story. Hunter-gatherers to farming, to cities to writing, to civilization. Göbekli Tepe breaks that order. Flood myths question its stability, and oceans hide its missing chapters. What remains unanswered? No theory has won. Not Atlantis, not Hancock, not mainstream archaeology. But the silence itself is meaningful. Because the further back we dig, the more complex humanity becomes, not simpler. And the deeper we scan beneath the seas, the more shapes appear where none should exist. The flood as warning, not memory. Perhaps the Great Flood is not a record of what happened, but of what always happens. Climate shifts, civilizations adapt or collapse. Knowledge survives only if deliberately preserved. If that is true, then the flood myth is not about the past. It is about us. The water never forgets. The waters rose once. They will rise again. What they erase depends on what we choose to remember. Stone remembers. Myth remembers. The sea remembers. And somewhere beneath the silt and silence, the story continues. Unfinished, unread, waiting. Between myth and stone. The Great Flood may not have destroyed an advanced world, but it did shape humanity's understanding of itself. It became a warning, a reset, a reminder that civilization is fragile. Göbekli Tepe stands as proof that human history is far older and far stranger than once believed. Atlantis remains a symbol, not of lost technology, but of our longing to believe something came before us. And the flood? It still echoes, in stone, in story, in the silence beneath the sea.